Hello and welcome to today's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, that podcast that opens up the opportunities and possibilities that spirituality can bring to you in your everyday life, whilst removing some of the woo-woo that we see on social media. If we haven't met before, my name is Matilda and I am a professional psychic medium here in Australia. Today's episode is quite exciting. I'm going to talk about what spirituality and mediumship mean, and a little bit about how I came to be a working professional medium. But one of the things that I have learnt to recognise in my own journey is that I am not a teacher. I can teach about spirituality and I like informing people about spirituality, but I absolutely love the job that I do. I love being a medium. I love being a psychic medium. I like doing the readings for people, connecting families that have passed over. It's such an amazing. It's really hard to put into words, to be perfectly honest. It's a privilege to be able to do what I do. And if you don't know already, I always refer to what I can do as an ability. It's not a gift. The gift is in the delivery. But I am not a teacher. I don't have the patience. And if you know anything about myself, I work with Laurie Rivers, and she has done my chart, my natal chart, and she said, "You're not a teacher." I'm not. I really am not. It's not that I don't want to encourage new mediums. It's not that I don't want to encourage people to tune into their ability. It's that it's very hard for me to explain it to people when it is something that is so inherent in me. I've been able to do this my whole life. Obviously not as a working medium. And I had a period where I was closed down, and that was through choice. But I have been able to do this my whole life. And trying to explain that to somebody or show methods and things like that isn't always an easy thing, and not everyone can do it. So I take my hat off to people that can teach. And today we have one of those people joining us. The amazing Megan Alisa is going to be joining us and talking about her journey and how she teaches and the institute that she belongs to. Because I get asked so many times about what I would, or who I would refer to for mentorship. I love teaching about spirituality, and that's something that I will be taking more to my Patreon over the coming months as my time opens up a little bit. But for real teaching, for real mentorship, I always refer people to Megan Alisa, and I think it's really important that people do what they are really good at. Although she does work as a psychic medium, she also takes the time, she's got the patience and all of that. So that's going to be a really interesting interview. Talking about Patreon, I'm going to give a shout out to my new Patreon members. If you don't know about my Patreon, the link will be in my show notes. It's a platform where I can be a little bit more open with my predictions. There are monthly extra podcast episodes. I'm working on one at the moment, which is about O.J. Simpson and John Benet Ramsey and some other things that are going on in the world. That'll go up sometime this week. I'm going to be making some videos about different parts of spirituality. I get asked the same questions time and time again on social media. And I thought, I'm actually just going to make some videos on those and put them onto my Patreon so that I can refer people to those and I'm not repeating myself. So I thought that would be a good thing to do. So as I say, go along to the show notes and check out my Patreon. It is free to join. There is different levels of membership, but in essence, some of the stuff is free to watch. So that'll be great for you. So I'm going to give my new Patreon members that have joined in the last week a shout out. And my wonderful, wonderful new Patreon supporters. I am in awe at all my Patreon supporters that you would support me in a way to make more content for you. So I am inspired to make more content for you. This is actually one of the weeks that I've taken off actual readings that's going to allow me to put more time in. So keep an eye out on the Patreon for some exciting things. As I said, the Patreon only podcast will be around O.J. Simpson and John Benet Ramsey. I don't like doing crime things or crime podcasts until they are well in the past. So thank you to Beth, Kelly, Kathy Thomas, Susan, Delwyn Litton, Kel Bell, Sweet Orange, Samantha, Stephanie Miller, Kathy M, Annie B12, Diane L, Laurie Master 3000, Jackie, Cara DeMayo Polt, and Claire. Thank you. You guys rock, as always. I am forever grateful. And as I say, if you are not a member of my Patreon, pop along and you will see the link in the show notes. It is free to join. So today we're going to talk about a few different things. But I did want to touch on my journey before I introduce Megan Alisa. Now, Megan has the patience of a saint. She is a born teacher. And I think that's an important thing to understand, the difference between people that can and people that cannot teach. And I hold my hand up that I am not a very good teacher. So people like Megan are really important, especially when it comes to mentorship and training and education as a psychic medium. There's a sense that people can just open their eyes one day and suddenly be a psychic medium. This isn't actually the case. Now, for me, I have this ability because it is inherited. I come from a line of people that were psychic mediums, not necessarily working in this area, but my mother was a Romany gypsy. It was inherent. And when my mother passed away, my ability became stronger. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I can suddenly or could suddenly decipher what I was being shown. It's in the translation of what you're given and how you deliver it that makes the difference. And I had to learn that through some mentorship with my wonderful mentor, through working with my guides, to know what I am receiving and to practice. But there's other parts of that are really important. Things like ethical behavior. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I am so strong on ethical behavior. And because of the advent of social media, it has brought out so many badly behaved psychic mediums. These people may well have a gift, but it's underdeveloped. It is not worked on. They don't work on their ability. It's a craft that needs to be constantly practiced. And they've gone to social media without any ethical training. And sometimes the things that they deliver can be harmful and scary to people. So I want people to understand that A, we don't get shown everything. B, we need to know and practice how we deliver things. And we really need to understand how the relationship with our guides really moves us forward in the ability and how we can deliver things. that is one of the utmost important things that we need to learn. I've worked on this for many years, which is why I can deliver things in an accurate way. It's very, very important that when you watch people on social media and people think, oh, I've got a bit of intuition, I'm going to buy some tarot cards and I'm going to sit in front of a camera and give $10 questions to people on social media, they're not validating things to prove they have a connection, and it causes a lot of confusion. So training with somewhere like the Oakbridge Institute that Megan Alisa belongs to is really important. So without much more talking about me, I'm gonna introduce Megan, and I hope you enjoy this interview and listen to what she has to say about the importance of training and the structure in which she trains. That's really important.
Hi, and as promised, I have Megan Alisa, who works with and has the Oakbridge Institute that helps mentorship for both psychics and mediums. Hi, how are you?
Hi, so good to meet you in person now, really. Great. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's great to meet in person. We've talked on email and on TikTok, but we've never actually met before.
Right.
So I'm really interested because I can't teach. I make no bones about that. I do not have the patience to teach. I will teach about spirituality because I'm very passionate about it, but actually teaching people that come to me wanting to open up their ability, and I do call it an ability rather than a gift. They want to open up that ability. And I've been referring people to you for quite a while.
Yeah.
But you're welcome. So let me just ask, what was your initial start to your spiritual journey? Because I'm always interested in people's start.
Or, well, I wasn't raised in any kind of religious household. I was actually kind of raised in a household where my father was against it because his dad was a pastor. So he had negative experiences of seeing people act one way in church and act very differently outside of that. So the hypocrisy of it for him was a real strong no. So I kind of started exploring spirituality on my own. I always had a strong pull toward that, as well as anything to do with like paranormal ghost stuff. Always loved those kind of shows or anything to do with mediumship. I was always very drawn to that. And I always had my own experiences in different ways, though at the time, I didn't really realize what those experiences were or what they meant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Around, like knowing things before they happen, or seeing things in my mind and then that happened, or all different kinds of different experiences. So basically, fast forward, I have children. There's like a whole inside joke about me being psychic, even though that was true. That was kind of like how I felt with it, because my parents kind of shut it down. So anytime I did bring up anything to do with it, it was coincidence. You know, it was like, basically, down, don't talk about it. And I just sort of dealt with my experiences on my own. So anyway, so yeah, fast forward, I kind of had a spiritual reawakening of having a lot more things happen around me and with me. And I was basically asking the spirit world, like, before even referring to the spirit world, just spirit, you know, like, lead me, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know if you know that song, Oceans. It's a Christian song, but it's called Oceans. And basically it says, spirit lead me to basically it's like, spirit lead me into a place where like I know you can lift me through this water and like help me through this.
Okay, and I don't know the song.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful song. I would say listen to it. I don't think it just needs to be strictly thought of in a Christian sense, but more in a, spirit sense. But anyway, I was singing that in my car, crying, and then like a month later, I was led to this metaphysical store where I just felt this like pull to go into it, and I ended up seeing a medium that day. And she was like, I think you're a medium, like from the experiences and the things that she was feeling. She's like, here's a flyer for Medium Michael Mayo's circle, which just happened to be at that store. He worked there. He taught there. She's like, it's tomorrow night. Go. He studies with all the great mediums from the UK. he studies with Gordon Smith, he studies with Eileen Davies, and, I think you'll really like him. And I'm like, I don't know who any of those people are, but sounds good. And I didn't even know development was a thing. I had never heard about that. So I went, and that night we sat in the power together. There was like 20 people. It's kind of a fairly large circle. And I felt the power. I felt that energy. It was just like, whoosh, there it was. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I feeling? And he was like drawn to me when we were sitting. He was like, what was going on over there? And I was like, I don't know. I just felt like all this energy. Was like, okay, interesting. And then there was an opportunity for demonstration to happen. And the lady sitting next to me went up, and my mother-in-law came through for me. And then like, does anyone else want to do it? And I literally had my hand raised on its own. I swear to you, there was no thought. It was just like instant. And I had never done mediumship. Like, I had never done anything. And I'm like volunteering in front of this group of people I don't even know to do this. I'm like, okay, that's super weird. And he's like, well, I don't typically do that. I don't typically have a brand new person come up, but let's just try it and see what happens. And I said, okay. So he kind of walked me through the steps of connecting, and I did. I felt an energy coming. I saw a man. I was aware of the information, and I was able to connect him with the person he was there for. And that night changed my life, and it made everything make sense until that time. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the thing that I was looking for and now understand. And so I basically just became incredibly dedicated. Like, I sat with her every single day. I went to every circle I could go to. I wanted to understand everything I possibly could. And I basically said, here I am, Spirit, like, lead me, right? Lead me and help me to find my way with this, and use me, use me as an instrument. And so they have. And that's basically like the trajectory of how I've gotten here. And then I became, a teacher and all of that down the line. But yeah,
that's a great. So how old were you?
I was 33. Yeah, I was 33.
That's a good age.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that you have to have some life before you can start developing. Because if you don't know yourself and your own body, how can you understand when another entity is trying to connect or talk through you? Now, a lot of people that I've seen try and do this in their 20s burn out really quickly. They're not using their energy well, and they really don't understand themselves, and they haven't healed from a lot of things. So you then continued with that circle. Is that where you got your own development?
Yeah. So the majority of my development was with Michael, also Eileen Davies. I've gone to Arthur a few times, but I did like classes with her and that sort of thing with mentorship. And I also worked with Gordon Smith and a couple other, different mediums here and there. But that was the majority. And like, I concentrated on mental mediumship, trance mediumship, trance healing, as like the main things that I did. And also home circle, as far as like learning how to surrender, to blend, to just sit for spirit, and how to understand what that power is and how it moves you and how to respond to it properly.
It's quite interesting because a lot of people can't sit in that energy. And that's why I think a lot of people shut down, because they may have been born with this ability, but when they're quiet and they're sitting in their own energy, they get scared because of things that they're picking up. So did you then go on to work as a medium straight after that?
No. Well, I just wanted to mention kind of what you're talking about with the people, like the younger people starting, or the people kind of not having the ability to sort of sit in that. That really comes down to development. That comes down to proper understanding. That comes down to being able to have that slow unfoldment of development, right? And to know that the life experiences do come in as we keep going, right? If you're trained properly, if you know the understanding behind how this works, what your connection is, where it's kind of taking you, what it means when certain energies are coming in certain ways, then you don't have the same sort of issues that you do when you don't have that understanding. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but that's what I'm talking about, is a lot of people are very open in their younger years.
Yeah.
And those that haven't experienced development or haven't looked at mentorship will shut down because they don't understand what's happening to them. And like you, it took a trip to a medium to open up.
Yeah.
You have. And then it's very similar to me. I have had this ability all my life. I come from Romany. My mum was a Romany gypsy, so it was very much in our life. But my dad's an Irish Catholic, so that, it wasn't happening in our house. So it took me visiting my first medium, who said, the first thing she said is, you need to be working the spirit. She didn't even say anything else. And then she's been my mentor ever since. So it does take someone sometimes to make you understand what is happening to you.
Yeah.
And mentorship and training is really important for those that want to develop it. There's some people that don't. Some people that have the ability that don't want to be doing it. So train other mediums. How long from working as a medium to starting to train did you have? How many years?
So that's a good question. So because it's a little hard for me to remember, only because Michael actually kind of, I think he felt a pull towards starting to like train me as a teacher early on in the circle, because I did. And I don't want to say this as like, oh, I advanced quickly, but I did in my development. I put the work in, right? I did the development. I was dedicated, and the things progressed pretty quickly for me because of that. So I was often helping in the circle and actually helping to support some of the other mediums, kind of walking around, paying attention, kind of already grooming me in certain ways to kind of teach, to show me, because he knew I had an interest, right? So even as I was still developing, I was kind of already starting to go that direction in a way, because I really always wanted to help, and teaching was always kind of a thing for me in some way. I've always kind of been a supporter, or someone that likes to teach, or when I have a passion, I want to share it, if that makes sense. So it kind of started in my development, but I did actually have teacher training. So there was a year of actual teacher training and mentorship under him, working as a teacher or going through very specific things for teaching mediumship to make sure that I'm going to do that well. Because to me, if I'm going to do something, I really want to do the best I can, always knowing I'm going to keep growing and learning, and doesn't mean I'm not going to make mistakes. I will. But, to me, it's always important that I know what I'm doing before I just jump in trying to do it, saying I'm a this or I'm a that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, some people are born teachers, and it doesn't mean to say, there's this saying that the teacher is the one that can't do. And I think that's completely wrong. I just think that teachers are born teachers, whether you're teaching spirituality, whether you're teaching mediumship, whether you're teaching someone how to drive a car, you're a teacher. I am not it. I admit that 100%, but I know a lot of people that they're put on this earth to teach other people, to enable it to continue going on. Do you have a favorite story about when you were learning that you just suddenly got this light bulb moment where you went, and this is what I am meant to be doing, whether it's meant to be teaching or whether it's as a medium?
It's a great question. I don't know if I had that moment besides the initial first night of oh my God, this is a thing, this is cool, and I can do this. And I don't know, I just felt like everything fit. So I definitely had that. I'm sure I've had moments where, the spirit has felt so present and so real, if that makes sense, in my space with me, that it always kind of moves me in a certain way. As far as, I don't know, I can remember certain things. I remember the moment that I was aware of more than one spirit around me in my space. Those are the kinds of things I remember in my development. But I think that I just kind of knew, I think it was as soon as it kind of started happening, and I had a consistent love. I'm the kind of person that when I feel a draw to something, a passion, a movement in some way, I follow it.
Yeah.
And when I follow that passion, everything always just kind of works out for me. And so that's been the way it is this whole time. It's just been, this is it. So can I say
That's really interesting. Yeah, because sometimes you just know. Do you understand? Like, people will ask me certain questions about spirituality or the afterlife or mediumship. And I'm like, how do you not know that? But then I just think, well, I've known for so long. I'm in my 50s now. And I've been doing, not working, obviously. I've only been working since I was in my late 30s, or in my 30s. But when you know something exists for so long, it's really hard to actually put it into words what the pivotal moment is. So it's interesting that someone else has the same sort of experience. And the fact that you can be open to spirit and they let you know that you're okay, or they give you that feeling of, you know what, I'm going through a really shit time at the moment. This feels good. You know that they're with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the name of, you work with the Oakbridge Institute.
Yeah.
And so just give me an idea of a course, or what sort of topics are covered, how long it takes, that sort of thing. Because I get a lot of inquiries about people wanting to step into this area.
Yes. So basically, Michael Mayo and I teach the main courses together. And then we also have a few other teachers that teach circles. We also have teachers that come in and do workshops and that kind of thing. But the recommended, course of action for people that are coming in to start developing would be to start in Foundations 1. So Mediumship Foundations 1, and it's meant to be 1 through 3. So for those particular courses, we break down everything you're going to need for a very strong foundational understanding of how to make a connection consistently, how to know the things that get in the way of that connection, how to learn to feel the power, how to know what the different ways the power is moving is telling you. And that kind of comes through all the different levels over time. But there's a progression that's built in those levels for a very particular reason. So each one of those levels is 7 weeks. And then there's a week off in between for most of them. And then once we do the foundational courses, we have a course called Expansions. And that's 2 different levels. So it's like kind of like level 1 and 2, but it's really like A and A1, A2. It's a 10-month course. But that's where we really go into a lot more of the personal development side and how the personal development side impacts the mediumship side and how we work on those things and have an understanding around those things in a much deeper way. So that's that 10-month course for that. And then beyond that, we have Advancing. And in that course, we are going even deeper into a lot of those sorts of things, but also challenges that come up in actual readings, because once a month, we start to allow the public to come in to do readings with our students. And then, we observe and, troubleshoot anything that's kind of going on with those. And then the second part of that 10-month course, they're required to do 3 public readings a week, and they're recorded and we review them and we kind of go over everything. And so it's an opportunity for them to have their hand held basically through everything, but get that opportunity to work with the public and see what that's really like, because it's very different than just working in a circle environment or with people that are other developing mediums. So, yeah.
Is there a practical side of this? Because you've talked about the mediumship development, and does that include psychic development as well? Is that all included?
So in level 3, we do dive into psychic development there. And we help people to have a really clear understanding of the difference of how it actually feels to connect mediumistically versus psychically. So they're very aware of what they're doing during that. Because I see many a medium unaware of if they're connecting psychically or mediumistically and not really knowing where the information is coming from. And I think that's actually a really important thing to differentiate, because if we're going to say consciousness is continuous and there's an intelligence providing me this information saying that they are still living, then we need to know for sure it's coming from that source and not from a psychic source, from the energy here.
So when I'm leaking psychically, I'm even using their guides or my guides.
Right.
And mediumship is someone that has already passed over, that is connected to the person sitting for the reading. Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that, the everyday person. I'm not talking about people that are in spiritual work, but a lot of people don't actually understand the difference between the two. And you and I have both seen people on social media calling themselves mediums when they're actually just using their intuition.
Yes.
Or they have a small amount of intuition that they are linking into, and they suddenly think they have this ability to link into those that have passed on or other people's guides.
Right. Yes. And that comes down to lack of understanding, right? They're uneducated, haven't done the development, they're trying to rush the process, or they don't care about exactly, you know, what that unfoldment's really meant to be like, or what a lot of people, I think too, they want to be, you know, stars, right? They want it to be about themselves, right? And not really about
the danger of social media. Yeah. We're here to help people. We are servers. That at the end of the day, as psychic mediums, we are here to serve other people, not ourselves, which is why you will see a lot of people sensationalize on social media and claim to have connections through mediumship to very famous people, which they can't have. And you'll notice that a lot of people have got the higher following count. The more sensationalism they give, the higher the following count. So it's never about helping people. It's always about helping themselves. I am really interested in your training and the practical side of that training when it comes to people working within mediumship and the ethical mediumship, because I'm all about the ethics of mediumship, and we don't get all the information. We have to behave in a certain way. We are here to serve people. What sort of ethical training do your students get?
Yeah. So from literally day one of Foundations 1, we start covering ethics. So ethics is repeated throughout all of the courses in different ways because obviously practical application counts. But it starts from day one of understanding the responsibility behind what we're doing, having the understanding of the why you want to do this, understanding the impact it has on people, whether that's negative or positive, and how that really comes down to us. And knowing no one is a victim of spirit, right? Knowing the boundaries you need to have when I'm working, I'm closed, or, you know, whatever's going on with that. Understanding that we never have to read anybody. We never have to go on to anyone up on the street and go and give them a random reading and record yourself for TikTok. That never happen. And there's reasons why it should not happen and why it can be dangerous to do to someone. And so that starts literally day one.
Yeah, I'm all about the ethics and the way that Hollywood has, they've dehumanized spirit, like mediums, and they've also made it, like I get questioned, why don't you walk up to people in the street? For a start, if I'm outside my house and I'm not on a day when I'm reading, I'm actually shut down. Right. And I am completely shut down because I deserve a day off like everyone else.
We're humans. We're meant to be paying attention to this life that we're living.
I made a video the other day that I actually forgot to ground myself after a day of reading and went through a red line the other day and I got a fine for it. But it was completely my fault. It was like I was halfway across the red light and I'm like, what am I doing? So yeah, it's a big lesson to learn. And attack reading, that's something that I get asked a lot. Have you ever walked up to someone in the supermarket and given them a reading unrequested? No, absolutely not. We wouldn't do that. It's unethical, and we don't want to do that because you don't know who you're approaching. B, it's very unlikely that you would if you're closed off and you are a good medium that has good hygiene around their spirituality. It's very unlikely that you would see their lost loved one when you are out shopping. And it's just not done that way. Talking of which, spiritual hygiene is another thing that I worry. Do you teach that?
So can you, what do you mean by spiritual hygiene?
Making sure that you're closed down, you're not accepting energy or pushing energy out when you are wanting to go about your everyday life.
Yeah. Again, day one, literally day one. Having, it's really, again, coming down to the understanding of, your part in it as far as why we become aware of the spirit world versus not, and understanding that comes down to us and our mindset and our intention and our energy, and not because the spirit world is trying to bombard us and make us do anything. If we're aware of them, it has something to do with us, not necessarily them.
Yes. And I always know someone that's a fake when they're walking around their everyday life claiming to be linked in all the time, because it's just not something that we do. And we have to protect ourselves, because being overwhelmed is a real thing when we do the work that we do. And being able to shut down before we go about things and are around a million energies is something that we need to be able to do.
Overwhelming, and especially for someone that's just who would identify maybe as an empath or that kind of thing, and not realizing their control over their own energy and their empowerment over themselves, and having the understanding of this is my energy, this is their energy, and knowing how to accept that in or not, or to self-identify with that or not, right? So those are things that, again, we teach like very, very, very early on, because it are so important. And the energy of the spirit world, and coming back down to us, right? Our attention, our instinct cannot be maintained all the time to the spirit world. And so that sense of, are we always connected in to our own intuition? Yes, that's always there within us, right? That part, not having a separate spirit coming and always connecting with us, giving us information all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're always connected, but we have to be able to say, this is the end of my day. I am like anyone else. If you were a plumber and you went to a bar and someone said, can you just fix the toilet? You'd be really annoyed. As a medium, and if I go out and they go, can you just do, I get annoyed when people do that to me. Yeah. And it's not that I don't want to help. It's just, get me during work hours.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and also sometimes they're just like, prove it to me, basically. So it's sort of like an ego thing. And I don't come at this from an ego place. So I'm not going to just be like, okay, sure, let me, try to connect in just for you, because you're like asking me to do it right here on the spot to prove it to you. Like, I don't need to prove anything. I show up for my clients, and that's the person I want to be giving the information to, that I hope that they walk away with healing or a change of mindset or a knowing of their loved ones there. Beyond that, I don't care.
My clients are my priority. They're the ones that I keep my energy for, and I'm very careful about how many readings I do in any given day. I see people on social media that can be sat there for 6 or 7 hours aiming to do readings. No, you can be after 6 or 7 hours.
No. Yeah. It's funny because one of our students was asking about this exact thing today. And Michael and I were talking about how we handle our days. I don't like to do more than 3 45-minute readings a day if they're like, back to back. I could potentially do another later in the day if there was a big chunk or something, or if maybe I was doing a demonstration later, which is a different energy. Yeah. But I would feel drained, and our attention span can't handle that, because our attention really has to go focus to the spirit world, and to keep it for that long and to keep that energy going for that long is difficult to do. So
it is incredibly difficult. Sometimes I feel like I've run a marathon. I keep it to it's 4 hours of work. So it's split between, sometimes I'll do 2 mediumship and 2 psychic readings in those 4 hours. But I only work 3 days a week now, because there's other things I want to be giving my energy to. And it is exhausting. And if you're doing a demonstration or you're doing a live event away from social media, like in-person live events, you have to bring the energy, you have to bring your A game. So it's very difficult to split up your day. I find it's taken me a number of years to actually split it up in a way that works for me.
Yeah, and I'll change it even more. Like, you're never set in stone, because maybe something changes in your life and you're going to have to adjust and be flexible, and it changes everything.
But definitely not 6 or 7 hours of on live, and they're not connecting.
No, like either they're not connecting or because we know psychic readings have a different energy, right? I could probably do, hours and hours of psychic readings, no problem. That's just a different place to be in when you're reacting. Very different energy. I think too, another factor is obviously it's going to depend on the sitter too, because their energy is a part of it. And if they're very sitter or they're in grief or they're not very open with their energy, not to say that any things are like a bad thing because people come in all different conditions. Certain ones are easier to work in than others, right? So if someone's very giving of their energy, that makes that connection so much easier versus when we're having to pull from more of our own energy to kind of keep moving through it.
It's amazing. I've been really lucky with my clients with the energy, and I've learned a little trick, and it's not psychic at all. If I'm in the middle or I start a call and I can feel this tension coming from the sitter, because they could be nervous, they may not have done this before, I get them to jump up and down, and it just releases their tension a little bit, and it does help. It's nothing psychic, nothing metaphysical. It just releases that energy, and it also makes them laugh, which sort of lightens things up a little bit. But yeah,
I do something sort of similar but different. I do have like that. I'll, ask them if there's anything, that they're nervous about or anything like that. First, do some education. And then I'll have them do sort of like a grounding exercise of putting their hand in the heart and breathing. So I'll walk them through like a breathing exercise and connecting to their heart space. And that always helps. And then also them and I are connecting, in that energy. So that's also another option. And plus, that's another.
Because I like to get people to laugh before reading, because it just means, because that does release a lot of that nervous energy. But yeah, I've been really lucky. My clients have been really lucky. If I'm getting someone was really closed off. What was that?
Me too, for the most part. But like here and there, different kinds of folks come. So
but I will not do a reading. I've had a couple of people when I have linked into their energy, and it's like they're either there to test me, and I'll just go, no, I'm sorry, I'm not getting anything, I'll give you a refund. Or their energy is just like a brick wall, and they're usually the ones whose wife has bought them the reading because their wife's had a reading and they're like, oh, try this person there. But I will just refer them to someone else sometimes, because they're better off going with someone else if I can get what they need.
That sorry.
Yeah, go
ahead. That definitely can happen. I'm pretty resilient when it comes down to it. Like, I'll definitely give it a go. Like, even if someone's difficult, but I definitely have a line. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely a line where I don't tolerate disrespect, or if somebody's really unwilling to work with me around, their responses or anything like that. I try my best. I really do try my best to just keep moving through it and trusting and leading more on spirit in those moments.
Yeah, I think when they say no to everything that you are giving them, and you know damn well that they just don't want to hear what you're giving them and they're not acknowledging it, that's when I will call it, because I'm like, why are you wasting your money if you don't want to hear what they have to say? But it doesn't happen very often. I think it happens every 3 or 4 months. And I've been doing this for 20 years. I sort of know when somebody's not wanting to hear it by now. Anything else you'd like to add about the Oakbridge Institute or spirituality in general?
Well, we definitely pride ourselves on trying to raise the standard at Oakbridge. So as far as having a really thorough development for people who come to develop with us, and we take it seriously. We really do. I know that someone's development is delicate, right? Working with students and the way we speak to them, the way we treat them, and the kind of environment we create for them is really important. And so I do want people to know that if they do decide to come work with us in some capacity, that we value that. We know that development is a very vulnerable thing, and they're coming in with all different kinds of experiences or, fears and self-doubts and all those things. And we work through them with them. And I know for myself, going through the development, that I'm a much better person. I know myself because of mediumship development. I have grown tremendously because of that. So not only in my ability to connect with the spirit world and bring through information and be detailed about the evidence, but as just a human being, right? Like, because it's really personal development, spiritual development, and mediumship development all going hand in hand together as we're going through this.
Yeah, that's an important thing to know. Getting to know yourself really allows you to hear when spirit are trying to communicate with you as well. And I think that's a really good thing. How many people in a class?
So starting in Foundations 1, the most we typically allow, I would say the most we would allow up to would be 50, but we tend to have maybe like 40, maybe 45 at the most. So they're not huge, and they have both of us working with them. So we go through the rooms, we give people personal attention, we help, we give feedback. There's time for question and answer. So anything that you're personally going through in your development, and it helps the other students too when people ask questions, obviously, because lots of people are going through similar things. So we have basically the format is we have like lecture about whatever it is we're covering that day. We answer questions. We do a practical exercise with them. And then we come back together and talk about it and answer more questions if need be. And then, we tell people basically sit in the power every day, sit in the power as much as you can, because that is the thing that really develops you when it comes down to it, besides the practical elements of doing it, if that makes sense. It's more of an energetic sense, and learning how to still the mind and learning how to be passive. That's where we make that connection.
Yeah. Yes. And anything you want to add about spirituality and what we see? Because I mean, my whole podcast has been about undoing the woo-woo that we see on social media, because spirituality is as basic as you explain it. To be fair, there's no mystery in it. We just have to learn how we're going to use it. And that's a really important thing. But for you, what would you like to say or let people know about spirituality versus the spirituality we see on social media?
Right. So a lot in my own platform is trying to remove the fear around the spirituality and the misinformation around it, like you. So first of all, that truly the spirit world is of love, and they're there to help and work with us, to support us. And that the fear that is taught to you through Hollywood, through religion, through other means is going to limit you in the truth of who you really are, and the truth of the connection that you actually have to the spirit world. And it also controls you. It also is something that, unfortunately is used to have power over you. Because if you actually knew the truth of who you were and your actual connection, you'll be far less likely to, follow what someone else says, right? So I always say, absolutely, you should have questions, and you should also try to have your own personal experience with something, right? Don't just take my word for it. Either like have an actual evidential reading and see for yourself. Go meditate, go make your own connection, go seek your own way, right? My way might not be your way, but every doorway leads to the same place. So
absolutely. Apart from the New Age spirituality.
Yeah. There's bits and pieces, right? So just like any religion, any philosophy, anything, there's bits and pieces.
Yeah, there's
a lot of a lot of human.
There's a lot of ego in that, though, and the people that try to teach it. And that's the difference. Yeah, is that we try and remove the ego from the information so that people can see the truth, and then choose their version of what they want. And I think education, as with everything, is incredibly important. But do your own education. Don't just believe what you see on social media.
Exactly. And along those lines with that topic, I think it's important to remember that, like we were saying earlier, you don't ever have to prove yourself to somebody, right? It's more like, here there are experiences as mediums. Here, let me show you through the actual work that I do, not just saying about it, but let me show you through the example of mediumship of what this actually is. And then also as mediums, we have to be objective, right? We're meant to be neutral. We don't bring our own judgment. And that's the thing a lot of people are confused by. Well, people will say, well, that's your belief. And I say, no, it's not my belief. It's my experience over and over and over and over and over again. That is not the same thing. It's actually an objective thing that I can validate from a spirit who's giving me this information that I don't know, that I shouldn't know or be able to connect to in any way possible. That it's correct.
Yeah.
And that is not a belief. That is a different thing. This is actually an objective, validatable fact. So different.
And people will always try and undermine something.
Yeah.
But if you're going to try and undermine it, do it through an educated point of view. That's usually my biggest argument, is that people will try and undermine something without knowing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is my learned experience and where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
Go away and learn your experience and then come back to me with some educated point of view.
Right. Yep.
Well, thank you, Megan Alisa. I'm going to add all of the notes and the link to the Oakbridge Institute in the show notes today. So if you want to reach out to Megan Alisa, she is on TikTok. She has the Oakbridge Institute, and I will make sure that all the links are in the show notes today for you to reach out to her. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely to chat with you. And thank you to everyone who listens.
Thank you very much, Megan Alisa, for joining me. If you are interested in mentorship, training, finding out what is involved, go along to the show notes. Everything is there for you. Megan Alisa can also be found on social media, and all her social media links are in the show notes. I'm going to apologise for the audio quality of that interview. It was really hard to clean up. I'm not sure exactly what was going on. I did my best, but I hope it was okay for you all to listen to. I'm still learning about doing interviews and cleaning audio and things like that. I just don't want